Well, good Monday morning. This is kind of a continuation of last week. So we talked about first causes in that one. Make sure you have a listen to that one. It's just 15, 16 minutes long. Then come back to this one. Why is there a universe? What is the ultimate first cause for this? One of our big problems in developing theories that leave out God and creation is that everything we know that we can replicate in labs, that we can do with math, that we can check out with physics, whether standard Newtonian physics or relativity or whether quantum physics, everything we know goes against the concept of there being a universe that is made from nothing. That once upon a time there was nothing, then it blew up. And as I brought up last week, we can't really throw in things like, but the law of gravity, because you can't have laws of gravity unless you have the things which, the conditions that create gravity, i.e., mass and energy. And we don't have those, then how did it blow up? And the concept of intelligence coming from non intelligence, order coming from non order. These things are what we know argues against the idea of an eternal universe, which just shoves the problem out of our head, saying, well, it was always here, just la-di-da-di-da. Or saying, well, it just, once upon a time there was nothing and it blew up. Everything we know goes against these things. Now, we're not talking here about being anti-evolution. Evolution just means development. And there's a big difference between macro and micro evolution. The fact is that the food that I eat, we have modified through the years. Now, there's a big fear of genetically modified food, but we've always done that. We've always taken 2 or 3 or 4 strains of different beans or wheat or corn and then developed them and then did some others. Everything you're eating is hybrid. Everything you're eating has been like that. Even if you're going into the wild and picking blackberries, those have crossbred with other blackberries through the millennia to produce better blackberries, even the wild ones. So, everything has roots there and everything develops. And we understand that. And we understand that evolution we see in front of us all the time. In one sense, you can see it when people of mixed races, rather, people of different races. We all know there's only one, the human race. Just work with me here, people. They marry and their children have the facial characteristics or physical characteristics of both mom and dad. Well, we can also see that in the way that we have made many different types of dogs and cattle and flowers. And because evolution is all around us, we see that. But evolution is not an adequate first cause for the universe. What did it evolve from? Well, why is there even a universe? Well, here's the thing. Often Christians are slandered. And you just don't like science. Well, science is a moving target. So we like some of science and we don't like others, just like we don't like some things in religion and we like other things. What are you talking about exactly? Tell us that part of science or religion and we'll tell you whether we're right there with you on it. The fact is that it is Christians throughout history that have studied openly the universe. People such as Isaac Newton, who we'll talk about in just a moment, who really wanted to know more about God and considered the greatest work of his life his commentary on Scripture, which always surprises people to find out. It's not read anymore by anybody but other than scholars, but that's what he was doing. He was trying to find God's tracks in the universe, to discover God's works behind him. The Bible comes to us with an alternate story. It doesn't say nothing blew up and now we have this. It's not from goo to you by way of the zoo. Instead, it explodes upon the scene with a designer who built the systems that we see and allocated DNA that allows plants and animals to replicate and to develop and to evolve. And now we have interdependence. Edward O. Wilson, the late evolutionist, used to talk about in a tablespoon of dirt. You would have up to 5,800 different organisms, most of which required the other organisms in some way for their own existence. So, how did we get suddenly this huge, massive interdependence of life? In Job chapter 38, when God breaks into that old Mesopotamian story and says, take a look at the animals. And one of the stories there is they come equipped with instincts, prepared to replicate, to thrive, and they eat. And all of them eat something, and many of them only eat other beings. So, which evolved first? This interdependence of all things. In Colossians 1:17, I just love the phrase, in him all things hold together. It is as if God is literally holding the universe together and continuing to make it work. And that makes me think of dark matter and dark energy, because we can't find over 90% of the universe, but we know it's there because of its effect upon the things we see. And very often Christians will say the same thing. They'll say, we know God's there. We cannot see him, but we see his effect. We see the effect of God, rather like the wave that we talked about last week. The world is overrunning with beauty and design. And Psalm 19 verse 1 comes to mind. There is also out there blood, treachery, and pain, and we get that. And we are as open to studying that as anybody. Christians have worked on the problem of evil and pain in the universe. Theodicy is its name, and continue to do so, and don't shy from it. Although I know some people blink rapidly and go la 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 and refuse to look at it. Christian scholars are pretty solid at looking at this and trying to wrestle with it. And one thing you learn very quickly in life is that since something is here, we can actually study what is here. Let's talk about Newton real quickly. Newton was born in the 1600s. He lived 85 years. And he was just one of those minds that was always studying. His Principia Mathematica, his understanding of mathematics and how and why it works is just an amazing piece of literature that, again, while outdated, is not so outdated as to not be still used. He was the co-creator of calculus, if you took that back in high school. And no, he didn't get hit on the head with an apple. That's just a story that came later. But he is the one who determined the law of gravitation and that all things in the universe are subject to gravity. He went on to propose his 3 laws of motion, which some of you may have learned in your high school physics, the law of inertia, the law of constant acceleration, and the conservation of momentum. He looked upon the universe as orderly, as going by a system of laws, predictable, that you could replicate these in laboratories and in the micro way of, and then say, okay, in the macro way, and now we understand how this spins, how this pulls, the effect of the moon, all of this other. He was able to reduce all of this to equations, and life was fairly predictable and orderly and sweet. And then in the early 1900s, in 1905, Albert came along. Albert had been perpetually poor, underemployed, and because he was Jewish and he was also kind of a man without a country there for a while, he had turned away his German citizenship before the turn of the century because of their militarism, went to Switzerland, but took him a long time to get a citizenship there. Eventually he gets his citizenship back in Germany and then has to flee again, comes to the States and lives in New Jersey. But this guy in 1905 published, what was it? Was it 5 papers? I think it was 5 papers. There's somebody, look here. I've got notes around somewhere. But in the 5 papers, he overthrew Newton's apple cart, shall we say. He showed that the world is orderly for you and I, by the way. Don't panic. The physics which Newton gave us works fantastic for 99.9% of anything you're ever going to come up against in your life. The only times that it might not is if you're an astronaut, if you're a physicist, or if you are working on anything to do with physics or astronomy, or if you have to have some nuclear medicine done to you. Then we're moving more into Einstein's field. Some of you may have seen the movie Oppenheimer. I enjoyed it. I didn't appreciate the gratuitous and completely unnecessary nudity that they threw at us a few times. They fictionalized a lot of the story because they had to, even though it was a long movie. If you check your timetables, World War II lasted longer than that movie. So they had to leave a lot and compress a lot. And by the way, just to let you know, we're blessed at the Our Safe Harbor Church soundstage. Part of our house church, well, a member there is a historian for the Oak Ridge National Laboratory, where they actually did most of the work for the bomb that is shown in the movie all the way over in New Mexico. And so he's given us tours, and it's just amazing. So come see the soundstage. Maybe we can hook you up with a tour in East Tennessee. That said, this startling new relativity threw a lot of monkey wrenches into this orderly universe. Because if you get too big or too small, the laws of Newton's physics don't work anymore. Well, what happens now? Well, Einstein taught us that energy and matter are really two sides of the same coin. That's why E equals mc squared. The total of both energy and matter are conserved. Now they can change. Energy can become matter, matter can become energy, and we can manipulate these things in many, many, many ways. But the matter and energy that were in existence at the microsecond of creation. Here's the important thing. If your eyes been crossing, now's where you sit up and pay attention. All matter and energy that exists today and that have ever existed at the microsecond of creation. Now, whether that's God, a Big Bang, or God using a Big Bang, it doesn't matter. Not for this. We know energy nor matter can be lost. Once again, they can be swapped. We can conserve them, we can transform them, we can convert them, but the solid amount always stays the same. There's a lesson to be learned here. We're about to get to it. God took nothing, and out of nothing, he made something. And when he stopped, creation itself stopped. No more energy can be made. No more matter can be made. Now, those of you that have never taken physics and all the science and such, you might be thinking, but we got a power plant down here and it's making energy. It is using mass and energy to create a different form of energy, more usable for us. But it is not creating energy out of nothing. It has to take matter and then use energy. That energy might be coal, it might be nuclear, it might be wind power, but it's taking energy elsewhere to turn it into usable energy for ourselves. So no, we're not making any new matter. We can order matter. We can take down a tree and we can change that order of the tree, and now we have a deck. But you know something? We didn't create anything. We took matter and we rearranged it, and we did so using, yes, ding, 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 a ton of energy. And so how much energy did God create? Well, the universe, so far as we can determine right now, has about 100 billion galaxies in it. In total, this is supposed to be something like a trillion tons of matter. Now, how much energy is this? Well, we go to E equals mc squared there. A very, very small amount of matter equals a huge amount of energy. You see, the energy is trapped in the matter. So that's how much was here since a microsecond of creation. How much matter and energy have human beings with all of our mind and all of our science created? Zero. Zip. Not even a single atom. Maybe some humility is in order here. Next week, we're going to talk a little bit more about, all right, how do we account for this matter and energy? What happened here? And why would people immediately shut their eyes away from God when we can't make a single atom? And yet we know all of this is out here, has always been here, and will always be here. And we can't account for that unless we bring in that being up there we're not supposed to talk about. But we're going to. We'll start again next week. God bless. Have a great week and enjoy the universe God made for you. And you're a part of it.